As I described in last week's sermon, the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations has replaced the UU principles with shared values and covenants in its bylaws. Today, you will have a chance to talk about what this change means to you, to NVUU, and perhaps to Unitarian Universalism as a whole. So we're going to start by reading the values and covenants together. And here's how we're going to do it. I think each of you has a copy. It's handed out this morning. So what we'll do to kind of mix it up a little bit, so we're not all reading the whole thing, is that Maggie and I will take turns reading each value, and we will invite you to read the covenants one side of the congregation at a time. So I'll cue this side, Maggie will cue this side, and we'll get the whole thing read, okay? Is that okay? We'll lead you through it. So it begins with these words. As Unitarian Universalists, we covenant, congregation to congregation, and through our association, to support and assist one another in our ministries. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are
where'd it go? There it is. Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. So now this half is going to read the covenant. Is everybody ready? We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships.
Next is pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. And let's have this half of the room read that covenant. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. So this half of the room. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large.
Transformation. We adapt to the changing world. Covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental. Never complete and never perfect.
I think that's important. Never complete and never perfect. Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. So you guys ready? We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality.
Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Gosh, that's the end. All right, good for us. Now we're going to enter into a time of reflection on the UU shared values. Here is the structure for this time. We will pose the first question, and the questions are in the order of service, but we'll pose the first question: what does it mean to have love at the center of our faith? We're going to invite you into 2 minutes of silence for contemplation, writing notes, etc. There are some stickies, or you can write notes on the sides of your handout or whatever you want, if that's helpful to you. And then we will have you get into groups of 3, so triads, to talk about your response to that question: what does it mean to have love at the center of our faith? So we'll give you about 6 minutes for that, and then we'll come back together to share in the larger group. All right? Any questions? All right. So let's start a couple of minutes of silent reflection on the question: what does it mean to have love at the center of our faith? All right, I'm going to ask you to get together with a couple of other people who are near you. You can move around if you want, but have a little conversation about this topic. What does it mean to have love at the center of our faith? You might acknowledge the change from the principles to these covenants and values.
Everybody hear me? Hey, I'm in my closed captions. Are people doing kitchen work or not right by the microphone, I assume? I hope people aren't just feeling a little, I don't know, insular, resistant to socializing, but I guess sometimes we all feel that way.
Have you all gotten a chance to say something in your small group? Not yet? 2 more minutes? Okay, you can have 2 more minutes. Go. All right, let's have the conversations wind to a close, please. I promise you'll get a chance to talk more later. Folks, you don't need to move necessarily. It's okay if you stay where you are. So it's up to you. What I would like to do now, though, is to invite a little bit of a share back. If there are things that you don't need to share what somebody else shared, but if there's something that kind of rose to the top in your conversation that you'd like to share with a larger group, I would love to hear it. And we have a microphone for this. Anybody?
So one thing we said is that we don't want to, we want to continue to hold on to the principles, as well as, to me, this new format is a slight change in emphasis from the head to the heart. And putting love at the center, the love is at the center of what we've been trying to do for, couple hundred years. But we're just making that more crystal clear.
I won't go on too long, but it's a perfect segue to what Maggie said, because we spent some time talking about how there's no definition of love on this piece of paper. And so we talked about what that word means to different ones of us. And our youngest member as the rest of us got entangled in our intellectual observations, the youngest member of our group offered compassion and kindness. So.
I don't have it in my head, but the letter to the Corinthians, perfectly, maybe we can find it and just have it. But of all the things that he says that love is, one of the things he said that is not, that I really like, was it is not puffed up. And I think that's really a guide from the old days.
I like that.
Well, I hope you'll forgive the cliche, but I think it's apt, is that nobody cares what you know until they know that you care. And looking to the larger society, we can't hold it together believing that there are half of the society is evil and them believing the same of us. We have to find a way to love people we disagree with and even find a way to love people who we do not like.
We live in a class society. Oh, we live in a class society in America. Oh, we live in a class society in the United States. We have the very, very rich upper class, the billionaires, and then we have the upper class, and then we have the middle class, which is well off, and then we have the working class. And I feel I'm very lucky that when I was 18 or 19 years old, I left my family. My dad was a bus driver. My mother was a house cleaner. And I went on to be in the Air Force, and the Air Force sent me to university. My parents couldn't send me to a university. And I traveled around the world and became a school teacher here in California. I went to college here in California, and I didn't pay any tuition. They didn't have tuition in those days. Now they have tuition in California. How many people can go to college in California and pay the tuition? My first wife, I sent to college, and the tuition wasn't very much at Sonoma State. But we are in a class society. This is no longer a free and equal America. And that's all I got to say.
So this one is from Alan on Zoom. It means we think about what the likely response will be of what we are considering saying before we say things that are reasonably alert third party watching and listening, just as a hypothetical example, person would think would rankle the person we will be speaking to or taking an action that will affect. We can't always tell another what they may want to hear or do what they want to see us do, but we try to factor in the effect of our intended words and actions will likeliest be upon them. Usually it happens subconsciously, and some people have more trouble at doing so with as high an accuracy rate as others. But it is the trying to disagree, if we do, without being disagreeable, to a reasonably sensitive / thick-skinned typical person that shows caring, maybe love, depending on our relationship, if any, with a person who our words and actions may well have an effect upon.
Great. Great. All right.
All right, this is not something I said in the group discussion, but, well, part of it I did in terms of I see it as cultivating an inner attitude. So I give intention, I don't mean I do this perfectly, intention to try to cultivate an inner experience of love going outward to whoever's in front of me or to the situation, including our current event. Okay. I try to cultivate an inner attitude of love, a felt sense, a more of a felt sense, embodied sense of love for whoever is in front of me or the situation in front of me, especially if it's challenging. One of the things I'm passionate about is attachment theory. It's been referred to as the scientific theory of love, and it really, one of the terms is attunement, and there's an expert called Thomas Hubel, who talks about it's like I'm feeling you, feeling me. So that's kind of how I go about it. So
One more, and then we'll move on.
I didn't say this in a group either, but the thing that worries me in the world today is there's so much love of money and love of objects. Well, I was going to say that. It doesn't really count as love, but I don't know.
Well, I know I love my children and I love my family, but I'm a counselor for Napa County for over 40 years, and every time I sit and talk to somebody, I make direct eye contact and I listen, because I think that kind of connection is the core of our humanity, and it allows us to be empathetic and caring about that person. I can't say that I outright love that person, but the connection with another human being and having that be real so that you can communicate.
You know, folks, I think a wonderful thing about Unitarian Universalism is that there is no doctrine or creed that we must all commit to. These are guidelines, and it's a covenant for each of us to try and work in this framework. But also, as we said last week, Revelation is not sealed. And I think a big part of our theological work this year will be to consider what love means and how we enact it, and particularly in relation to justice and equity work, and in relation to our own work in the world. So I'm looking forward to having those discussions with you. No, I think here's what we're going to do. So we don't have a lot of time left, which I love. I'm so grateful to you all for getting so into those conversations. That was really neat. So the second question that I wanted to pose to you was, what is the second question? Oh, yeah. Well, that's what I was just saying, right? How do the other values relate to love? So I'm going to just ask you to sit with that for just a second, and then if you would like to just chime into the larger group, that would be great. If there's something that you want to say about how love relates to the other values, I'd be welcome to hearing that. William.
I landed on here was interdependence, and once you really realize that, love is like a good investment.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Well, certainly justice and equity involve recognizing the value of every individual. So that's a very loving thing to do.
What are thoughts?
This is somewhat of an echo of Lenore's, but all of the other values come out of our desire to love the world.
And I want to lift up what I've heard the president of the UUA, Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt, say. She talks about fierce love, right? This is a time, I think of that sense, it's a little bit cliche, but I also find it to be really true, that mama lion sense. You know, when my kids are under attack, right? I'm going to get up and I'm going to take care of things and call for justice, right? And I think that is so grounded in love. That is so grounded in love. So, but then how do we do that from a place of love?
And I think we need to remember that love leads to discernment. It does not lead to judgment. And it's something that I finally intellectually understand. Don't always make it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right. Yeah, yeah. Let us continue this conversation this afternoon, this month, this year, and on and on and on. We will be living with these values and covenants for some time to come. It could be another 15 years, right? Until the UUA authorize a reconsideration of Article 2, right? Every 15 years, it's time to reconsider. And it may look completely different after that. Or it may be this. It may be a deepening into these values and covenants. So let us keep that in mind and hold these things in our hearts. And I think it is time that we can move on and end our service, but with those conversations continuing. So